The council chamber was cloaked in dim, ambient light, casting long shadows over the gathering of alien officials. Their varied forms, representing species from across the galaxy, sat in a circle, their faces bearing the marks of battle and command. They murmured among themselves, voicing concerns about a growing threat on the fringes of their controlled territories. Whispers passed through the group, fragments of words describing this threat as aggressive, tenacious, and resourceful. Yet, the term itself, *human*, was spoken with a strange mixture of uncertainty and dismissal. In the midst of the quieted room, an older alien rose to his feet. His skin was marred with scars, signs of many wars and hard-fought battles. He cleared his throat, silencing the room with a presence that carried both gravity and experience. All eyes turned to him, the war veteran who had survived encounters that others hadn't. He looked at each of them, his gaze heavy with the weight of his message. "You do not know what you're planning to face," he began, his voice low and resolute. "I've seen them. Fought them. And let me be clear, humans are not like any other species we've encountered." The other officials shifted, exchanging glances of skepticism, but no one interrupted. He continued, voice growing firmer, more intense. "The humans, they are unlike us. Unlike any of us. They lack the biological advantages we have, no claws, no heightened senses, no armor plating. By all accounts, they should be weaker, inferior even. But what they have, what they are, makes them a threat far beyond what you can imagine." A scoff came from one of the younger officials, his sleek figure leaning back in disdain. "What could they possibly offer that our combined might cannot handle?" he sneered, voice tinged with arrogance. "Primitive weapons, basic technology, surely they're no match for our fleets." The veteran's eyes narrowed, his expression hardening. "That's exactly what I thought once." He took a deep breath, his gaze distant as if recalling the memory. "Our forces engaged a small human colony. We thought it would be easy, a quick skirmish to secure resources and teach them a lesson. But from the moment our ships entered their orbit, things went wrong. They reacted instantly. Adapted instantly. Where we expected disarray, they showed organization. Where we anticipated surrender, they struck back, relentlessly." One of the council members shifted uneasily, her scales rustling. "They fought? Without regard for their own survival?" "They did more than that." His voice dropped, heavy with a mixture of awe and horror. "Humans don't just fight, they hunt. They analyze. They look for weaknesses and exploit them without hesitation. We thought we'd cornered a few of them. Thought we'd have them subdued. But they moved like predators. Calculating, relentless. The moment you think they're beaten, they come back with something new. A new strategy, a new tactic, something they learned from us, even." The younger official's face twisted in disbelief. Surely they couldn't be so adaptable. The veteran's eyes blazed with conviction. "They're not bound by the rules we know. They have this drive, this refusal to be conquered. I've seen humans continue fighting while severely injured, pushing their bodies beyond limits we thought impossible. We watched them use technology in ways that was never intended, turning even our own weapons against us. They are capable of acts that defy reason." The room grew tense, the initial skepticism of the officials eroding into unease. The older council members glanced at one another, a creeping realization dawning upon them. But the younger ones, still confident, refused to be swayed so easily. One alien leaned forward, his mandibles clicking in disdain. "You make them sound invincible. Are you suggesting that we surrender to such primitive creatures?" The veteran's expression darkened, his voice lowering to a near whisper. "I'm telling you to avoid confrontation. They do not see conflict as we do. To them, war isn't just a battle of forces, it's survival itself. They've evolved on a planet where everything, including their own environment, was a threat. For them, adaptation and survival are ingrained, reflexive. When you fight humans, you're not facing an army, you're facing a species of apex predators, honed by millennia of hardship." Silence fell over the chamber as his words settled over them, heavy and cold. The younger alien shook his head in dismissal, but his expression wavered, uncertain. You're exaggerating. They cannot be that dangerous. The veteran held his gaze unyielding. Dismiss me if you like. Laugh it off. But mark my words, he said, each word carrying the weight of his warnings. Do not engage the humans. They are far more dangerous than you can comprehend. The alien council sat in silence, the veteran's words still lingering in the air. His warning had cast a heavy shadow, one that weighed on some members more than others. A younger leader, newly risen in the ranks, broke the silence, his tone sharp and dismissive. Enough of these tales meant to frighten the weak-hearted. He sneered, gesturing toward the door where the veteran had exited. He speaks of humans as if they are some invincible force. But let's be realistic, they're not. They're primitive beings, a species just emerging from their own atmosphere. We have technology that spans light years beyond their crude weapons. They are outmatched, and they know it. Several council members murmured in agreement, their initial unease giving way to confident nods. They looked to the younger leader, who had a charismatic certainty that was contagious. He continued, his voice gaining momentum. Humans rely on instinct, brute force, and desperation. They don't have the tactical finesse, the advanced weaponry, or the resources we do. Why should we fear creatures who, at best, are just animals in clothing? One council member, a seasoned strategist, cleared her throat. But they've managed to hold their ground on multiple occasions against forces far stronger than themselves. Shouldn't we at least consider the veteran's words? His experience may be outdated. The younger leader interrupted smoothly, silencing her. Those were isolated incidents, unique circumstances. This time, we're prepared. We'll strike swiftly and decisively, showing them that resistance is not only futile but foolish. We'll demonstrate to them, and the galaxy, that their defiance has consequences. A chorus of approving voices filled the room. The council members, emboldened by the younger leader's confidence, dismissed the lingering doubts. The veteran's warnings were swept aside, brushed off as tales from a bygone era, relics of a past no longer relevant. Plans began to form quickly. They would target one of humanity's outer colonies, a remote settlement that would be vulnerable and isolated. Their aim was to seize the colony, strip it of resources, and make an example of its inhabitants. Show of force, quick execution, minimal casualties. They anticipated a victory without much resistance. By the time humans realize what's happening, it will be over, the younger leader declared, his words dripping with certainty. They'll come to understand that they don't belong in the ranks of dominant species. More nods followed, any remnants of doubt fading as the council solidified their strategy. They would strike hard and fast, overwhelming the human colony with sheer force and efficiency. Humanity's so-called resilience would be nothing against the might of their coordinated assault, and in mere hours, the colony would be theirs. Resources secured, territory expanded, reputation reinforced. Near the back of the chamber, the veteran stood, silent and still, watching the enthusiasm grow with a grim expression. After a moment, he stepped forward, his face hardened. "This is a mistake," he said, his voice low but resonant enough to catch their attention. "You're all too eager, too blinded by your own confidence. They are not an enemy that can be subdued by strength alone." The younger leader laughed, his expression mocking. "Spoken like someone who's seen too many battles to realize times have changed. You've let fear get to you." The veteran's eyes narrowed. "This isn't fear. It's experience. The humans are unlike any species we've encountered because they are built for survival, for adaptation. They will learn your strategies, counter your moves, and do it with a speed you won't expect. Underestimating them is a mistake, one that will cost us dearly." His words hung in the air, a last attempt to penetrate the wall of arrogance that had closed around the council. But they were met with silence, cold and dismissive. The younger leader sneered, folding his arms. "Thank you for your input, veteran. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable watching from the sidelines, where your caution won't hold back progress." The veteran's face tightened, but he gave no further argument. Instead, he looked at each member of the council, a flicker of sorrow in his gaze. "Remember this day, then. Remember what was said here, when the consequences come." With those words, he turned and left the chamber, his last warning trailing behind him like a shadow. "Underestimating humans is a mistake we won't survive." The alien fleet approached the human colony, shimmering in the darkness of space. Their ships, sleek and ominous, hovered like an unyielding wall above the unsuspecting settlement below. Confident in their numbers and advanced weaponry, the aliens opened fire, unleashing a barrage intended to send a clear message of dominance. They anticipated surrender, compliance, or, at worst, scattered resistance. But instead, the humans responded instantly, and fiercely. As the first blasts hit, the human forces sprang into action, moving with an eerie precision and speed that shocked the alien attackers. What was expected to be a quick, overwhelming assault was met instead by coordinated defenses and brutal efficiency. Before the aliens could adjust, their ranks were hit with sudden ambushes, their soldiers picked off by human forces who moved like shadows through the colony's terrain. Confusion spread through the alien lines as they encountered tactics they hadn't prepared for. Human soldiers seemed to anticipate their moves, using terrain and cover to devastating effect, launching strikes from multiple angles in rapid succession. Guerrilla warfare, quick assaults, and sudden disappearances left the alien soldiers disoriented. They weren't facing the disorganized resistance they'd expected but a force with an uncanny understanding of the battlefield, and the intent to repel them completely. Reports filtered in from the front lines, each one worse than the last. Alien soldiers found themselves caught in traps, their movements anticipated with an accuracy that was unsettling. Human forces used modified technology, adapting even the alien weaponry they had scavenged, turning their own tools of war against them. In moments of disarray, humans would strike, retreat, and strike again, never allowing the aliens time to recover or regroup. Panic started to creep into the alien ranks as they realized the humans weren't just defending their territory, they were actively hunting their attackers. Alien squads sent out to secure areas would go silent, ambushed by humans who seemed to know the terrain better than their own sensors. Some alien soldiers, hardened by battle, felt fear for the first time as they watched their comrades fall to human strategies that combined ruthlessness with precise calculation. In the command center aboard the flagship, alien leaders monitored the battle through an array of screens, their expressions growing increasingly unsettled. This wasn't the quick victory they had envisioned. The colony below was supposed to have fallen within minutes, and yet their forces were struggling, bogged down by a resistance that didn't seem to tire or waver. The humans were unpredictable, adapting their tactics in ways the aliens hadn't accounted for, matching every countermeasure with one of their own. Each leader watched, transfixed, as the humans continued to repel the assault. One screen showed a group of human soldiers, wounded but still fighting, ambushing an alien squad with precision and focus. Another display captured humans using rudimentary technology to disable alien shields, a feat considered impossible without advanced knowledge. The leaders exchanged uneasy glances, remembering the veteran's warning, his voice echoing in their minds. The humans weren't fighting just to survive, they fought with an edge that bordered on instinctual, an almost primal drive that refused defeat. With every failed attempt to push forward, the alien commander's confidence crumbled. A growing realization settled upon them. The humans had turned the battle into something personal, something primal. They were out to dismantle the invasion from within, piece by piece. The aliens, who had believed themselves vastly superior, were now faced with an enemy that fought with a ferocity and adaptability that defied explanation. As more distressing reports flooded in, a hushed tension fell over the command center. For the first time, they understood the full weight of the veteran's warning. Humans weren't just a primitive species fighting for survival. They were predators, relentless and unyielding, who had turned the tables on their would-be conquerors. The alien leaders, gripped by an unfamiliar dread, watched the screens as their forces continued to fall. The humans had shattered the illusion of superiority, and in its place, a chilling truth dawned upon the council. They had grossly underestimated the resilience, adaptability, and power of the human spirit. The human forces had held their ground, but now they were ready to do more. They had seen the initial alien attack and countered it, and now, with an understanding of the enemy's patterns, they launched a counter-offensive of their own. With coordinated strikes, they deployed guerrilla tactics so relentless that the alien soldiers were left scrambling, unsure of where the next ambush might emerge. Each step forward only led the invaders deeper into human territory, where traps lay hidden in every structure, every corner, and every shadow. The aliens quickly found their technology compromised. Human hackers, working rapidly, began seizing control of alien systems, disrupting their communications, weaponry, and even navigation. What the aliens once believed was their advantage became a vulnerability. The humans infiltrated their data networks, cutting them off from each other and making them blind to movements across the battlefield. Alien weapons were rendered useless or, worse, were turned against them as the humans adapted the technology with a precision and speed that left the aliens in shock. Morale within the alien ranks began to plummet. Facing an enemy they had underestimated, one that seemed to anticipate their every move, fear began to grip them. A strange and unnerving sound echoed across the battlefield, the humans' signals and calls to each other, efficient and confident, a haunting reminder of their unwavering determination. Alien soldiers, once so sure of their own superiority, could hardly believe the ferocity with which the humans pressed their advantage. Wherever they retreated, human forces were there, ready to drive them back again and again. Some alien soldiers found themselves face to face with humans who, despite bearing wounds, fought with unyielding strength and focus. To the aliens, accustomed to species who retreated or surrendered under such conditions, this resilience was terrifying. They watched as humans, injured and bleeding, pushed forward, ignoring pain and exhaustion, fighting as though they had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Each confrontation became more than a battle, it was a statement, a reminder of humanity's refusal to be conquered. Disarray spread across the alien forces as communication between units faltered. What had once been a clear chain of command devolved into scattered messages and broken signals. The aliens were isolated, separated from each other, and unsure if reinforcements would come. With systems hacked and communication lines severed, they could no longer rely on each other or on orders from their superiors. Their command ships, once believed secure, now felt vulnerable as reports filtered in of human forces infiltrating their very heart. Panic seeped into their ranks, undermining their ability to function as a cohesive force. In the Alien Council, an eerie silence fell as they monitored the scenes unfolding on their screens. They were witnessing the collapse of their invasion firsthand, and the images played out in horrifying clarity. They had launched their assault with confidence, certain of victory, and now they were watching as their forces crumbled, one by one. Alien soldiers, once so disciplined, were shown scattered, disorganized, fleeing from relentless human squads who seemed to appear from nowhere. It was then that the council members began to realize that the humans were indeed the alpha predators the veteran had warned them about. Humanity's determination, their ruthless creativity in combat, their refusal to yield, it was beyond anything the council had prepared for. And now, the alien leaders felt something they had never truly experienced before: terror. They had learned to fear humanity, and they realized the depth of their mistake far too late. The remnants of the Alien Council gathered, haunted by the recent battle's outcome. Their forces had been decimated, their ships scattered or destroyed, and the alien soldiers who survived bore marks of a defeat they had never imagined. The humans had withdrawn, but the devastation they left behind lingered like a wound, both on the battlefield and within the minds of every council member. They could still hear the relentless fire of human weapons, see the unwavering gaze of their fighters, and feel the weight of humanity's ferocity. As the surviving council members stood in silence, the doors opened to reveal the old veteran. His presence was a stark reminder of everything they had ignored, every warning they had dismissed. He looked around at the council, his face bearing no expression of surprise, only a somber understanding of the inevitable. For a long moment, no one spoke. The council members looked to the veteran, their arrogance now stripped away. One of the younger leaders, the very one who had scoffed at the veteran's words, broke the silence, his voice hollow. "We didn't realize." The veteran's eyes narrowed, his voice measured but firm. "Humanity doesn't just survive," he said. "They overcome." Every hardship, every challenge, they turn it into fuel. They learn, they adapt, and they turn the tables before you even know what's happening. Their strength isn't just in their weapons or their numbers. It's in their will. The council members flinched, realizing the weight of what he was saying. They had assumed humanity's strength lay solely in brute force or desperation. But this was a strength woven into their very being, a need to overcome, to rise above. The veteran continued, his voice calm yet heavy with the truth they could no longer ignore. Humans aren't predators simply because they are ruthless, he continued, but because they refuse to be anything less than victorious. They don't fight just for survival, they fight to reshape their reality, to make it conform to their will. And when faced with an enemy, they will not stop until they've either defeated it or died trying. The words struck the council like a blow. The reality of humanity's power wasn't merely in physical might or tactical cunning. It was in a drive that transcended any limits imposed upon them. They could no longer deny it. Humans were more than they'd ever understood. The council members who had once dismissed the humans as a minor threat now understood the cost of their hubris. The veteran's gaze moved from one alien leader to another, his expression unreadable. "Consider this your final lesson," he said quietly. "Humanity isn't just a species to conquer. They're a force you'll have to reckon with, as equals, or as something you'll never overcome." The council members lowered their heads, the weight of the veteran's words settling on them. They had come to conquer, to expand their territory without resistance, but they had encountered a strength they could not measure. What they had mistaken for primitive resilience was something far deeper, an indomitable spirit that would not yield. As the veteran turned to leave, the council members found themselves unable to speak, held in place by a new understanding. They had underestimated humanity, and in doing so, had learned the true meaning of fear and defeat. Now, all that remained was the certainty that humanity would rise from this victory stronger, sharper, and even more formidable. The doors closed behind the veteran, and the council remained in silence, each one lost in thought. They had a choice to make, to face humanity with respect or to risk annihilation in a battle they now knew they couldn't win. In the stillness, the veteran's final words echoed, a lasting warning to those who survived. Humanity doesn't just survive, they overcome.